Hey everyone, welcome back. It is nighttime over here and I'm basically working with my red light. So if you're watching on YouTube, it may look strange. But that's what's going on over here. I don't use artificial light after dark because it messes with melatonin levels, as I know most of you all know. So anyway, that's the deal over here. In the background, however, you may be able to make out that little wooden structure over there is our chicken coop. I just tucked them in. They're sleeping, and they're sound asleep almost on their perch posts. And it's actually a really big deal because we just finished this chicken coop and we started it like last winter, and we're like, we need it done by March. It's November 11th and it got finished about 2 weeks ago. So that's how the project went. But the girls are settled in and they're doing really well. And we're really excited about our chicken coop, and we'll have a few new chicken members this spring as well. But I'm glad to be back. I haven't been here in almost 2 weeks now, as I've been pouring my heart and time into the Ancestral Health Certification Program. Those of you who are in the program, I'm so excited to have you there. And I recently launched this program, and yeah, so it's been full on and it's been a lot of fun, and I'll say more about that in a little bit. But also, we are prepping for the newest addition to our farm, which is a Jersey milking cow. We're really excited to have her, and hopefully her little calf. We're trying to gently convince the owners to part with her, but so we'll see. But we at least have a 3-year-old Jersey A2 milking cow that will be arriving next week. So this was a little bit unexpected. We weren't going to get a Jersey cow until the spring, but a really good opportunity came up. And Jen and I were, going back and forth like, oh, we shouldn't get it. And it's this time, it's not a good time. But, then we were like, when actually is a good time to get a Jersey cow? When are you really ready? It's like, maybe some people are, but we're not those kind of people. And so it's like, yeah, we're never going to feel like, oh yeah, we're solid and don't have like heaps going on. So let's bring in the cow. So anyway, the cow will be arriving next week, and I can't tell you how happy I'll be to no longer have to buy butter, cream, or raw milk at the store anymore, and to have our own personal provider from our Jersey cow. Yeah, we're super stoked about that. Now, I'm going to be honest here. I've never milked a cow before. Okay. So, I've also been knee deep in learning all about this new skill I'm about to acquire, and I'll keep you posted. But if any of you out there live locally, DM me or send me on Instagram, or you can reach out via our contact page on our farm site, ojoconejo.com, OJOCONEJO. If you're interested in joining our raw milk CSA, or just simply purchasing raw milk from us on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, we will likely have raw butter available as well, as long as I don't eat it all. And so this will be starting towards the end of November. Okay, on a podcast note, today I want to talk all about healing and sealing the gut. This topic was actually that exact topic. Like, one of my clients was like, hey, Heather, can you talk about how to heal and seal the gut? I'm like, yes, that's such a good question, a great topic. And so this episode was suggested and inspired by one of my clients. And I think it's an awesome idea for the podcast, and a topic well worth deep diving into, as we have all been taught some pretty inaccurate things about the gut and gut health. So hopefully this episode will bring some clarity around this topic. Now, honestly, gut health is one of my favorite topics. It's one that I see so much improvement with in my homeopathic practice. Literally, people who have gone to their, they struggle with gut health. I should say the majority of the clients who come to me with gut health struggles have been struggling with a gut issue such as blood in their stool, beginning stages of Crohn's, colitis, and have been on medication typically. And when we begin our homeopathic work together, there is a massive shift. I've had so many people be able to go off of their medications, stop having blood in their stool, start having regular stool, and all from homeopathic work. And this is honestly why it's one of my favorite topics, because I have seen such drastic, positive improvements with people with gut health issues in my homeopathic practice that is very rewarding to see that when this medicine is used and prescribed properly, that the results can be absolutely phenomenal and beyond the grasp or understanding comprehension of anyone in the naturopathic, but even more so in the allopathic world. It's like they don't have any answers, like, well, this is a medication, you'll just have to be on it the rest of your life. I call bluff. I call absolute horseshit on that. In many cases, some people, that will be the case, but in so many cases, I've seen homeopathy do some astounding things with people for people with compromised gut health, and that as one of their core main health struggles. So, many people have been taught a lot of misinformation with regard to gut health. And during this episode, I want to help you see this picture around gut health a lot more clearly so you can support your gut health in deeper ways. And I also want to shed some light on practices like probiotics and so forth, because a lot of people spend a lot of money on gut health products or supplements, including probiotics, that honestly often are pretty unhelpful and don't get to the root of the issue, and can make matters worse in some cases. So during today's episode, I'm going to discuss root causes of gut health issues. I'm going to talk about why the gut becomes leaky. I'm going to talk about why I think probiotics are a waste of money. I'm going to talk about why I use and recommend sunlight to help support gut health. If I get to it, it's in the cards. I'm going to talk about prebiotic foods and resistant starches, why they're often not the answer, and hopefully I'll get time to deep dive into that a little bit. And then I'm going to talk about what I use and suggest when it comes to healing the gut and patching a leaky gut. So it's a big episode, but I haven't been here for a couple weeks, so I think it'll be a good return here to the podcast. Now, before I dive into the episode, I want to mention, for those of you who missed the first round of enrollment in my ancestral health course, I will be offering a Black Friday discount for 2 days only on the course. And then after that, I'm going to take at least a few months off from offering the course. So if this program is something you've been considering, if you're like, yes, I want to become an ancestral health practitioner, I want to become certified, stay tuned, as I'll be offering a holiday discount on the course in the next couple of weeks. And, in a nutshell, this course teaches you how to create customized ancestral health programs for your clients or your future clients if you're just starting out with your holistic health business. And it does so by using a combination of diet and sunlight. And I'll also teach you other very useful and important skills when it comes to working with clients holistically, such as how to read blood work from an alternative health perspective. Can be really helpful when it comes to working with clients. I'll also talk about subjects such as when it's helpful to recommend food grade supplements to your clients and how to specify these recommendations. I discuss important topics like how to choose the best drinking water for your clients. That's huge. How to prepare and cook meat. There will be videos. Part of this program, at least a bonus part, I should say, is that I will be providing cooking videos, how to cook certain foods, especially meats. It's one of the most common questions I get asked, Heather, how do you cook meat? Most people that I work with, they know, they have an awareness that meat is healthy, meat is good. There's a lot of attention being directed at the carnivore diet. And so more people are coming to understand the benefits of meat. But most people eat meat in a way that is like, oh my God, like, how do you eat that? It's like, let's make this good. Let's make this taste good. Let's make it pleasurable. And so not just around meat, but there'll be other cooking videos in the program. I'll also teach you how to tell if your client is a curable case versus an incurable case. And this is really important when it comes to customizing health plans for your clients and, much more. So to learn more about the course, you can go to my site, heatharshepard.com, HeatharShepard.com, and you'll see the Ancestral Health Certification tab at the top of the menu. Okay, let's dive into today's episode all about how to heal and seal the gut. First of all, what does that mean? Basically, what it means, or I should say, how I'm going to approach this today is that there are certain substances, things, practices, genetic predispositions, etc., that can make the gut more porous, and quite literally, proteins and so forth can start to leak out like a leach field, like your sewers hooked up to a leach field. That's what can happen if the gut is not quote unquote sealed properly. So we don't really want a leach field in our gut. We may want them in our sewer systems, especially. I don't think that's really a thing if people live in the city, but if you live more rurally, usually there's a leach field, and that's a positive thing, but not when it comes to your gut. So I want to start with talking about root causes of gut health issues, because if we don't start from the root, or we don't use modalities that are capable of accessing the root, then we're only palliating symptoms at best, right? So if you've been an avid listener of the podcast for a while, you likely have an idea of what the root of our gut health struggles are. Honestly, it's no different than what's at the root of our other health struggles, but we can pinpoint some things here, particularly with the gut. So, what are some of those things? Antibiotics, top of the list, top of the list. For some people, one round of antibiotics will put them over the edge, will activate a genetic predisposition, and will throw them into some sort of chronic disease state. For other people, they may need 10 or 20 or 8 rounds of antibiotics until their particular organism reaches a tipping point, and then their health starts to be more compromised and moves more deeply into a chronic disease state. This is very individualized. It's based on the person's genetic predisposition. It's based on the person's constitution and organism and the strength of that. It's based on the level of somebody's health, and including their stress levels when they receive some sort of suppressive therapy, like antibiotics, like V's, the jabs, like other RX meds, like even OTC meds. All of these things are at the root of why we struggle with, many people today struggle with poor gut health. And all of these substances, at the core, the root, encourage more of this porous, leaky leach field of a gut. And so many people are like, yeah, well, gluten does this. Not necessarily. Gluten often does this because the gut is already set up by these suppressive therapies. The suppressive therapies are at the heart of this. We know that the gut, a main part of the body's immune system, over 80% of it, 80+% of it is located in the gut, lines the gut. We have the B and T cells in the gut. These get destroyed and compromised with the suppressive therapies, not just anti-BOs, but all of the suppressive therapies attack the immune system, suppress the immune system. And so if somebody has a strong genetic predisposition on the gut level, then the more compromised somebody's gut health is going to be. And after the side effects of such medications, and the side effects could be immediately, like an hour after you take it, to a year after or so, maybe 2 years after. So just to be crystal clear, this is what's at the root of our leaky guts. So, most people think that getting to the root of why they're sick, or why we're sick, is a baffling thing. That it's a stumper, and then people go to their doctors and they're like, I don't know. It's just you had this SNP or this genetic, maybe it was just passed on, which it may be, but we have to understand that, and I talk about this in the ancestral health course. There has to be a trigger to the genetic predisposition in order to activate it. We have to figure out what that trigger is for each particular person and organism, to truly understand how to help that person from a root place. So a lot of people want to, or attempt to, make healing a black and white thing. You have leaky gut, take a probiotic. You have a hormonal imbalance, take progesterone. We try to do things in a black and white way, and it's not really working out for us well, because that's not how our bodies work. So, from my experience, in over a decade, well over a decade long of practicing holistic health, homeopathy, and so forth, I can honestly say that I have never seen a case that was confusing with regard to the root of the issue. Not one single time, not one single case. It's never been like, man, I don't know. I don't know why this person is the way they are. I don't know what's going on here. Any doctor that tells you that they don't know why you're sick is not a well-trained doctor, be it holistic or Western medicine or whatever medicine they're practicing. So at the root, we all have susceptibility to certain disorders. And if for those who have strong genetic predisposition on the gut level, that genetic predisposition has to get activated, and the genetic predisposition gets activated by a suppressive therapy or multiple rounds of them, and or stress, life stress, emotional stress, relationship stress, grief stress, family stress, work stress. One and or a combination of these things gradually weaken the organism, sending it towards its tipping point. And for those who struggle with poor gut health in a really huge way, the genetic predisposition is likely, at least in part, focused on the gut. And so then we have to address that from a root place as to what happened in this person. After this round of anti-BOs, they were more sensitive to gluten. After this round of V's, they were had more diarrhea or constipation or bloody stool, right? We have to see where this started for each person. But those, in every case, that's what's going to send this into the gut into overdrive and compromise its integrity and lead it to be more porous, lead it to be more leaky. And when that happens, we cannot absorb, assimilate our foods. We have things like high histamine response. We have things like extreme sensitivity to oxalates. And we blame these on certain foods, but really it's not the food that's the problem. We're the problem. And the suppressive therapies that we've had are the problem. And so we have to use approaches and medicines and so forth that actually can address the root of the problem. This is why I'm not a fan of probiotics, because this whole issue didn't start because you didn't have, because you weren't taking a probiotic. That's not why you started to get colitis or Crohn's or constipation or diarrhea or so forth, right? Now, there are some beneficial bacteria that if somebody has traveler's diarrhea, they can take a certain probiotic and then, it can help to alleviate their symptoms. But I'm going to tell you, if you have traveler's diarrhea or a foodborne illness that results in diarrhea, then what I have seen time and time and time again is that when that is suppressed or when the bacteria isn't addressed, when you don't actually remove the bacteria, which is what your symptoms are trying to get you to do when you've had food poisoning or traveler's diarrhea, the diarrhea and the vomiting are your body's attempt to get rid of the pathogen. It's like, no, this does not belong here. Boom, the immune system gets triggered, produces a symptom to protect you, to protect your body. Now, what I want to say here is that time and time again, I've seen when those things are suppressed with an over-the-counter, an anti-BO, or some other suppressive, I have seen so many times this then result in a more chronic digestive issue, such as appendicitis, such as leaky gut, such as chronic constipation, such as chronic IBS, such as heartburn and low HCl levels. I've seen it so many times. So I'm not sure how I got on that on that topic, but I wanted to mention it here because so often I see when there's a case of really bad food poisoning, excuse me, or traveler's diarrhea. This is how I got to this topic. Okay, and you just take a probiotic, that probiotic, like Saccharomyces, isn't going to alleviate or remove the bacteria in there that's causing the issue. It's just going to bring in more beneficial bacteria and then maybe offset the symptoms of the actual pathogen that the actual pathogen is providing your body with. So in a way, it's a suppressive. It's not a suppressive in the way that an anti-BO or a V or something like this would be, but it's still palliating the system. And why I'm mentioning this is because I see so often in my practice gut health issues, especially appendicitis, that result from or that manifest after a parasite, after traveler's sickness, traveler's diarrhea, after a foodborne illness. Okay, that was kind of another aside because, hey, maybe someone out there, somebody you know has had this experience, and you can help them connect the dots, or you can help connect the dots in your own healing and so forth. Sorry, I'm exceptionally thirsty tonight. Okay. So, now I want to spend a few minutes here just talking a little bit more about probiotics. Okay. Here's a few things on probiotics, and maybe you've heard some of these things. Maybe you've done, your research, because I'm not the only one saying some of these things. For one, do we know if probiotics in powder form in a pill can survive past the HCl lining in the gut? That's debatable. I'm a little skeptical of that, to be honest. Okay, next thing is, so Google, the internet, your naturopath, your functional doc, so forth. Maybe your homeopath, who knows? Someone out there, most people will take a probiotic. It's just like, it's just like, go for a walk. This is like a general recommendation. Take a probiotic. Do this or that, right? It's like, they say it in such a nonchalant way. And it's like, hang on a second, okay? Because we cannot and should not be taking probiotics nonchalantly. Because honestly, let's say, for example, you've had a round of NIBOs and you're like, hey, I need to take some probiotics here. I need to restore my gut flora. This is probably a whole podcast in itself, but I want to at least prime the pump here. So first and foremost, we don't know. You don't know what gut bacteria is in your gut. You just take a lactobacillus, right? Or an acidophilus. Let's say acidophilus. It's a common one. Most people are like, okay, I've just had a round of antibiotics. I'm going to take some acidophilus. I need a probiotic. I need to restore my gut microbiome. Why? Because people start to have symptoms when they start NIBOs, or at the end of them, at the very least, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, extreme bloating, belching, flatulence. There's sleeplessness, insomnia, fatigue, brain fog, the list goes on. Anti against BO life doesn't just attack the bad guys. So anyway, people are like, okay, I've just taken some anti-BOs, or I'm not feeling well, or my gut's a little off. Maybe I should take a probiotic. That's how we've been trained. We have to untrain that. That's not an effective way of thinking. Because the gut does not work in linear ways. This is a very deep and extensive topic. So I'm going to give you for an example here. So there are certain gut bacteria that are beneficial. They play beneficial roles rather than quote unquote pathogenic roles in the gut. Okay. So, lactobacillus, we have the Bacteroides. There's so many gut microbiomes that act in a positive way. However, what we're not taught is, if you get too much of a certain probiotic, if you overpopulate any of the bacteria, even whether they're pathogenic or beneficial, if you overpopulate any type of bacteria, your body will produce symptoms. Okay? Because this is such a delicate balance that needs to play out in your gut microbiome, and the bacteria that live there. Why I think probiotics are a waste of money is because people take heaps of probiotics, beneficial bacteria, and if they take it, especially long term on a regular basis, they're going to be causing a dysbiosis situation in their gut by overpopulating the bacteria that are present in that particular probiotic that they're taking. So you could literally cause health issues, and I've seen it so many times. People have autoimmune symptoms people get joint pain, people get more fatigued, people get more bloated. These are just some of the more common symptoms I see if people are overdoing it on their probiotics, but they never think, hey, maybe this is my probiotic, because we're not told the other side of the coin, that the bacteria in your gut, even the beneficial guys, they need to be in a very delicate balance. And when we supplement, whether we drink 73 kombuchas a day, or we OD on kefir, or we OD on water kefir, or we eat way too much sauerkraut, or we literally take a supplement, then we run the risk of overpopulating certain organisms in the gut. And this, as a side effect, will create symptoms. And then people are like, shit, I don't feel good. I'm not feeling great. And you'll say, and the last thing they would think about is it's the probiotic. Because when we take things and eat things that are quote unquote supposed to be good for us, we don't typically, our first thought isn't, hey, it's that probiotic that's causing me this issue, because that's actually supposed to be healing me, right? I want to offer that because it's a huge misconception that we have in the gut health world, and in the alternative healing world in general. Okay, there's so much I can say about that topic, but that's what I'll share for now. Now, why I use and recommend sunlight to help support gut health actually ties in with this probiotic piece. If any of my students are watching me on YouTube, they're going to be like, Heather, you're turning into a phosphorus right now with how much water you're drinking. Yeah, I'm so thirsty. Okay, anyway, sunlight. Okay, I've said this so many times before, but let's just keep revisiting this until it really sinks in, because this isn't the story that the mainstream alternative health world is teaching people. And we really need to teach people this because it's basic when it comes to gut health and the gut microbiome. And in a nutshell, we have this thing called the gut-brain axis. Why do we have this? This isn't just like by chance that we have this, literally this axis connecting our brain with our gut. So the brain, what is one of its main jobs, goals, one of our main aspects to our physiology is that the brain takes in light through the retina, goes back to our circadian hubs, SCN, PVN, right? And it sends that message back to the circadian hubs. Once it gets there, it's like, oh, there's UV light present, there's UVB light present, there's red light present, there's this amount of blue light present. And what happens is, one main role of the gut-brain axis is the brain communicating this light signal, this light message, to the gut. Now, most people think we get our gut our gut bacteria from our mom. We do. From our father as well, but we get a majority of it through our mothers, especially during birth, especially during vaginal births, right? Through breastfeeding. We also develop, our gut microbiome continues to develop. The gut continues developing after birth, okay? It strengthens, becomes more integrity, etc., because more nutrients from sunlight and from the actual diet come into the body, and this helps to really cultivate and develop the gut. So this gut-brain axis here, one of its main roles, in my opinion, is the retina takes in light, sends this message to your circadian hubs in your brain behind the retina, the SCN, suprachiasmatic nucleus, the PVN, the paraventricular nucleus. These are like your circadian clock, circadian hubs in your body. And so what it does with this message is, depending on the type of light, it will send so many messages down to the gut. And the gut will send those messages back up. And especially if there's a dysbiosis, that's why we feel brain foggy, right? So when you're in certain light forms, this actually triggers the proliferation of certain beneficial microbes in the gut. Yes, you make your gut bacteria from the food you eat. Yes, you get your gut bacteria from your mom. Yes, you get your gut bacteria as you're breastfeeding as a kid, as you're playing on the playground and hopefully eating handfuls of dirt without pesticides in them, this sort of thing, right? But what an area of gut health that is widely misunderstood or ignored or inconsidered or all of the above is this connection between the gut-brain axis, and why it exists in large part is so the brain takes in that light message and sends that light message to the gut. For example, when UVB light is present, this is the light we make vitamin D in, right? This is the light that only shows up during the late spring, summer, early fall months in most places. Unless you live in the tropics, then you're fortunate enough to have UVB all year round. So, but when your eyes take in, they're like, oh my gosh, okay, here's UVB light. This triggers the production of a different set of bacteria, a set of bacteria that are more equipped to absorb, assimilate, digest, handle simple sugars. The simple sugars available to us at that time in the form of fruits, veggies, the sugars available to us at that time, like, honey. And so we need this as a survival mechanism. We need those bacteria to be in greater amounts during this time of year. What triggers that? Sure, the food you eat, but the light that you look at as well. And you cannot have one or the other. You cannot say, well, I'm not really going to go outside in UVB. I'm just going to eat like fruit. And no, that's not how it works. You need this signal from the light in order to more effectively digest, absorb, assimilate the simple sugar foods that you eat. This is why when UVB light goes away, what changes in nature? Well, the UVB is gone. We no longer have access to these more simple sugar foods. What happens now? The carbohydrates, the sugars become more complex, more robust in a sense, because they have to survive the cold. They have to store for longer periods of time. Think of how long you could set an organic tomato on your counter versus an organic pumpkin, in which one's going to last longer, right? It's a Sesame Street question, right? So the gut bacteria changes when UVB light goes away to because you don't need an abundance of that bacteria anymore. Now you need just to focus on complex carbs, more fats, more meats. And of course, all throughout the year, we focus on fats and meats as well. But this is really important because, and I talk all about this in great detail in the Ancestral Health course. But this is one huge benefit of the Sunlight RX. Now, if you are unfamiliar with the Sunlight RX, it's a 4-step protocol that I created that teaches you how to use the sun in a therapeutic sense to help support your health by using sunlight. And one of those um, therapeutic benefits is with regard to gut health. So if you haven't learned the Sunlight RX yet, go to my site, heathershepard.com, and on the menu, you will see the Sunlight RX ebook. There's an entire tab dedicated to the ebook now, so you can find it very easily. Please go there, and it's literally the least investment with the biggest payoff that you will likely ever experience with your health. So so sunlight is huge with regard to the gut microbiome, and including serotonin production, because we know that, the majority of our serotonin is located in our gut. How does it get activated there? How does it travel there? How does it get there, right? The answer is sunlight, is in large part. The answer is sunlight, particularly UVA light stimulates the production of serotonin. So guess what? If you have a gut health issue and you're not getting enough sunlight exposure, and like most of people today, you're likely getting too much screen time, and so you're going to cause deficiency in serotonin, and then you're going to have symptoms. And we have this amazing warm orange whatever ball in the sky that literally, when you learn how to use sunlight therapeutically, can help to do something that seems so out of reach in our Western culture and Western medicine, but is so attainable with nature, and that is to replenish serotonin levels naturally. You can do so in sunlight. Sure, you can take some sort of drug or medication that can stimulate that, but it's going to do it in an artificial way and have a lot of toxic side effects. Need some water. Okay. So I want to end today. I want to make sure I have enough time here to talk about why particularly resistant starches are often not the answer. So, the classic approach is you go into some alternative healer and you have gut health issues, and they're like, take this supplement, take this probiotic, eat more fermented foods, which isn't necessarily a bad idea, right? But we need to make sure we have a balance. A lot of fermented foods have similar types of bacteria, and if we just focus on one of those foods, again, we can create a dysbiosis if we overdo it. We need diversity. I'm all about diversity in the diet, and that is often lacking in many people's lives today. We get too dogmatic and rigid about the foods we're eating, and I know that a lot of people have food sensitivities today. And if you go back to the beginning of this episode where I talked about why the gut is leaky, that's also why people have so many food sensitivities today. So resistant starches, what's an example? Like green banana flour. What in the God's heck did they have to do to turn that? Well, we know what they had to do, right? But to turn that banana peel into flour. And then, I mean, how many heaps of bananas? This is a huge product. And there are other resistant starches that are also produced by the ton. These things require a lot of people are like so concerned with global warming. They're like, get an electric car, right? It's like, this is a whole other topic, but the topic is so backwards, right? And these are the people who are probably eating a lot of green banana powder, and they're driving like a Prius, thinking that they're like doing a good thing, right? It's like, it's okay. It's not a judgment. It's just like, we're so misinformed and miseducated, and literally people are trying to direct our attention in every which way today. Is that I really encourage you, like, examine things. examine what I'm telling you. Absolutely, go for it. But examine things, because, don't just take suggestions because somebody's like, oh, probiotic, oh, green banana powder, right? Or flour, excuse me. Like, let's look into this a little bit. What does it actually take to make green banana flour? And what does it actually do for your gut? Some people, resistant starches are like a time bomb on their gut if they eat too many. And then you'll read things, and there's things that'll make you feel really bad, like, oh, our ancient ancestors ate 20 pounds of resistant starch a week. And, and then you're like, well, if I eat a teaspoon, I get like gut, I've, this isn't my personal experience, but some people are like, well, I eat a teaspoon or a tablespoon of resistant starch and I have gut cramps and diarrhea and bloating. And it's like, then you feel horrible about yourself. Our ancient ancestors, here's the skinny, right? Our ancient ancestors didn't have suppressive therapies, and they didn't put holes in their gut, and their gut wasn't a leach field, you know, and they lived outside in sunlight. So what's the answer to healing and sealing your gut? For one, we have to rectify what's actually caused this in each individual. All right, we go back, it was antibiotics. We go back, it was V's. We go back, it was stress. And so, one, we have to tailor the treatment to that individual's unique symptoms and root cause. Everybody's going to have a different root cause, right? So then, for two, we have to incorporate sunlight therapy into our healing protocol, because this thing called the gut brain axis that I've been talking a lot about today is absolutely fundamental in how the gut produces beneficial bacteria. And also, it plays a role in helping to clear out pathogenic bacteria. Now, if those pathogenic bacteria are very deep and like we've heard of things like biofilms, maybe sunlight won't be as strong a powerhouse to break those up in very severe cases, but we'll use other things to help break those up, like homeopathy, So, what I use and suggest when it comes to healing the gut and patching a leaky gut is, one, homeopathy, because that allows me to get to the root of the issue. These are your particular symptoms. These are the symptoms you have. This is when it started. We can target our treatment as practitioners if we understand and know how to use homeopathy. This is why I train people, because unfortunately anybody can call themselves a homeopath today and literally haven't taken one class. And so my education in homeopathy was extensive. It was about 4 years. And then some with regard to clinic and so forth. Most programs don't even offer clinic, which is why my practitioner I'm like, I need a practitioner training program, because nobody sees people in clinic. Nobody's actually educated. So, for one, just find an educated homeopath, and, you can send me a message about working together if you'd like, no problem. Okay. So the other thing is, we have to learn the Sunlight RX, and we have to commit to our Sunlight RX practice. This is going to help make the communication between the gut brain axis much more clear, much healthier. It's going to be on this circadian clock system, and that in and of itself is exceptionally healing to the gut. The other thing we need to do is start mitigating artificial light at night, because if we do all this amazing work with sunlight during the day, and then here comes the night and we're blasting ourselves with blue light, well, we're just literally undoing all of the work we did, and we're messing with our circadian rhythms, and so it really has a big effect. So, of course, there are many things you can do with your diet to help healing and sealing the gut, but I'm always cautious of strict diets, especially long-term strict diets. Like, say, for example, since we're on the topic of gut health today, like the GAPS diet. I think, some people have had great progress and success with this, but this is not a long-term solution. It may be helpful in the short term, but then we have to use modalities and practices like homeopathy to help the organism get to a place where they don't have to rely on a strict protocol of any sort, for very long. So I hope this episode was helpful with regard to gut health, healing, sealing the gut. Um, I'll see you next week. I'll be back with the weekly podcasts. If you have a suggestion for an episode that you would like me to talk about here, please send an email or a DM my way. I always appreciate and warmly welcome those. I'm about to go make a fire, drink the rest of my water, and do a little reading about Jersey cows. I've got 1 week. See you all next week.